Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 734. This was the second of a two-game match against Tony, or Sicilianaire on chess.com. And I had the white pieces this time. I started off with e4, and he went with e6, the French defense. So play a normal French to start with, knight c3, which could lead to either the Winawer or the classical. He plays bishop b4, which is the Winawer variation. And now I play my obscure sideline with a3. e5 is a normal move. And then a3. The thing about a3, which makes it a little bit dubious, is that after the exchange, it's not dubious, actually. I've looked at it with the engine in it, and white is fine. They used to play it this way. It looks for a second like black is winning a pawn, so it's almost like a gambit, but it's not really a gambit because queen g4 is a double attack and attacks both pawns. So it's safe to go ahead and take. The only trick you need to know if you're black in this position is that it's much better to defend the center pawn with knight f6 rather than to play the other main move here is queen to f6, which keeps the king side intact but gives up the center. And actually white is much better in that situation. But knight f6, giving up on the king side and chasing the queen around is actually an okay position for black. White is looking to find ways to attack in this position, but it seems that black can hold, and so that's why they gave up playing this way. They used to play this way against the French, and they stopped playing it and they started playing that e5 move first before playing a3 to change that. To get out of that line. But my opponent here didn't take the pawn. He played knight to f6. So Tony just developed this piece. And so that puts pressure on the center. Here, we're out of the book at this point. And so I felt compelled to push my pawn forward and knight fd7. And then I played f4. I was just thinking, well, this looks like a classical French, and I should probably shore up the center. But it turns out I played f4 a little too quickly. I probably should have paused and thought for a little bit here because I had a good move. I could have played queen g4, just continuing that idea from the previous line. I mean, the queen comes out and attacks his pawn, and it's a bit embarrassing. Does black want to castle right away and face the move bishop to h6? Probably not. I think that loses the exchange unless there's some way to defend that pawn I'm not seeing. A lot of times this knight is really on the e7 square, and the knight comes out to g6 and blocks it. But because the knight came out to f6, erase that. The knight came out to f6, and then it went back to d7, so it can't get back to these squares over here to defend like it normally would. So anyway, it's interesting. Yeah, the chess engine gives king to f8 is the best move here. Another option would be to play g6. But anyway, none of that looks to be very particularly attractive. It looks like I've managed to induce some weaknesses. So that would be the best way for me to continue the opening. Anyway, I played f4, and I have an opening. I have an okay opening position here, but nothing super special. I was a little more optimistic during the game than probably was warranted. I think black is fine here. So he played c5. You go bishop e3. He goes queen a5. Sorry, comes out this way. Queen a5, putting pressure. Yeah, this was a good move, and this pressure against this pawn chain, often a theme in the Winawer variations. This is a very typical kind of game in some respects for playing against the French defense, with this pawn chain and the pressure against it. What's funny is that, let's see, when does he play c4? Yeah, it's a couple more moves. So, I mean, even after this pawn chain is completely locked up, it seems like it's still somewhat fragile, and we'll see that. We'll see that illustrated in the game. It's kind of surprising. You might think you have this great solid wall of pawns here, but there are weaknesses in it due to the open lines behind it, and well, we'll see that coming up. But anyway, queen a5 puts some immediate pressure on the pawn chain. I defend, and now he goes knight to c6, also putting pressure on the pawn chain. Knight to f3, defending and developing. He goes knight to e7, so he's going to bring this knight around, perhaps could come to the f5 square and maybe participate in an attack. let's see, I go bishop d3, so I'm just keeping, I am actually continuing to develop, but I'm also hoping to provoke the move c4 because that closes up the center, which he played, and kick my bishop back. And so now, I'm feeling pretty confident about this pawn wall. But as I said earlier, this pawn wall is surprisingly fragile at times. And we'll see a good illustration of that in this game. Something to keep in mind if you're playing these kind of typical French structures from the white side. You have to really look for tactics against that apparently solid wall of pawns there. Okay, knight to b6 was played. I castled. So all these moves are decent moves. I don't know if they were all the absolute best from the chess engine, but we're both playing pretty well through this part of the game, and the game is staying in the range of about even. Let's see, he knocks my bishop back to f2. Let's see, he starts to bring his bishop out. That's the key. One of the keys to the French defense is finding good use for that light squared bishop. I play, I bring my other rook over. I was thinking his pieces were maybe a little bit misplaced on the queen side, and I was trying to get some pressure against them. He goes knight back to e7, so he has some other idea of what to do with this knight. I go knight to g5. I'm still looking at his weakened king side. I notice he never castled, and so that leaves, well, particularly the g-pawn is undefended, and the f-pawn might become weak too if I could find a way to get my queen over here to attack it. He plays h6 to chase my knight back, and I drop my knight back to h3. I wanted to keep this line open for the bishop to come out into the game. Yeah, the bishop could go directly to h5 too. Let's see, he played knight to a4, so he's piling up on this c-pawn. And let's see, right here, I make a little mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. Well, he is winning this pawn, but I'm also attacking this pawn, and I could have just taken that. That's a perfectly fine move. And after queen takes, knight takes. I mean, his knight does get in here, and it's kind of annoying. But well, I have a rook on the 7th rank, and he hasn't castled yet. This is an okay position, and would be interesting to play, and probably better than what I played. I went bishop to e1 here, just kind of defending that pawn, but it's hard to defend in the long run. Anyway, yeah. Let's see, he went with b5. He's protecting his b pawn now, and played queen over to e3. I'm trying to rearrange my pieces a little bit, so I can. I don't want the queen to be the first piece that's defending that pawn. It should be a minor piece, if possible. Let's say he brings his knight back to f5 to harass my queen. Queen to f3. Goes bishop to c6. Yeah, and this is one of those interesting points. This line where the bishop is looking at the queen sometimes opens up the way for sacrifices on e5. It doesn't work here because I have the f-pawn here, but it's an example of how this pawn structure can be a little more fragile than it seems. Let's see, and I went bishop to d2 here. What is the chess engine recommending? The chess engine is recommending g4. Yeah, that's probably good. Chase that knight away immediately and get into trouble. After I play bishop to d2, he actually had an opportunity here. He could already play knight takes d4. There's this tactic that it's because when I move my bishop to d2, it's not defended on that square. And yeah, I totally overlooked that, and fortunately for me, Tony missed this as well. If he just took that pawn and I take back, I lose the bishop here. So so he already could have won material that way. He eventually ends up winning material, and it's a similar kind of tactic, but already that idea was in the position. Anyway, after I played bishop d2, he just moved his queen out of the line of fire. And let's see, I went queen g4. I'm still trying to figure out how to harass him over here on the king side. It's not as effective as I thought. I was sort of overlooking that the knight is securely defending the g pawn. So, and I haven't chased that knight away. So, yeah, it's not a great move. Queen g4, probably a blunder. Anyway, so he brings his queen back to b6. And another way that these pawns can be fragile is, well, with this pin on the on the d pawn, once again, there's one less defender for the there's one less defender for the e pawn, but I have the f pawn to defend it. That's why getting this f pawn up here is often a good idea. But there's another more subtle tactic that I missed, and he spotted it this time. He's probably setting it up with this queen move. He's setting up this tactic, and once again, it has to do with the loose bishop on d2. Sometimes you think loose pieces that are in your own camp like this are not a problem, because how can your opponent get to them? But you know, whenever you have loose pieces, they're often surprising tactics. Anyway, I was sort of shifting my attention to the king side at this point. Brought my rook back to f1, and I was looking to reorganize my pieces a little bit, maybe push the g pawn and just try and get an attack going. It was actually a little tricky to play this game because of the fact that he didn't castle. I think delaying the castle eventually got him into trouble, but as long as he's delayed castling, it's hard for me to decide whether I want to do a queen side attack or a king side attack. So it was an interesting strategy for black, and it really pays off here. The combination of being tactically alert and keeping me a little bit confused about which side of the board to play on was successful, and he spots this idea, knight takes d4. And now if I take back, he takes with the queen, and it's a check, and it's a fork. So that's the idea. That's how he gets his piece back. So I go here, he takes. And then actually the chess engine says this is the way I should have played it. And then I push the pawns forward and continue to attack on the king side. My bishop is defended. The rooks defend each other. So everything else is pretty cool over here. And if I start pushing the f-pawn forward, I guess he doesn't have time to take the c-pawn. I think that's the idea. I wasn't sure inviting his queen into my camp was such a good idea, so I was looking for different ways to respond, and I realized I could just move my king out of the way. But actually this is winning for black. Black has a winning edge at this point and should have gone on to win the game. So let's see how things went on from here. He took my bishop. That's good. I took back. And now, if he were to just castle, that really puts an end to my play on the king side, and he's a pawn up, and and that gives him the time to reorganize his pieces. The knight is a little bit oddly placed there, and he would be in great shape. But instead of doing that, he started to reorganize his pieces right away, and he's got an open line. I mean, it's pretty logical play, really. He's got an open line into my position, and he just needs to get all his pieces into the attack. And he was starting with the knight, going with this maneuver, knight c5 to e4. But because it takes a couple moves and he hasn't secured his king position, that's just enough to give me some counterplay. So knight c5, it's probably not technically a blunder. He still has the advantage here, but it's giving me some chances. And after knight e4, the computer evaluation has switched, and it gives the advantage to white at this point. Now, I don't necessarily keep the advantage all the way through the rest of the game, too, but it's just interesting how quickly things can turn around and how important it is to secure your own position. And sometimes you can pause in the middle of a sequence, like right here, and just castle to secure yourself and then continue with the attack. And you're much better off than the more sort of straightforward way of playing it, knight c5, f5, knight e4. So anyway, yeah, I see that he's threatening to trade off this bishop, but I don't see any great, any good way to deal with it. I don't have any great places to place, great squares to place that bishop on. I guess, I could have tried to buy some time with bishop to e3 now that I think about it. So maybe I should have considered that. But, well, this is okay with the way I played it. Just taking here, and he takes back, and then bishop to e3. So, okay, so I did play this bishop e3 move eventually. Just took on e6 first. Okay, so his queen drops back, and, logically this wants to come over and defend a little bit. And now I make a mistake. So the way to keep the edge here is to play the move queen g4. And this is the third or fourth time I've mentioned the queen g4 idea in this game. It's once again a double attack. In this case, it's attacking on e6 and on g7. Now he can defend both of these, but then my queen can get to g6 with tempo, with the check, King runs away, and I can get my rook to the 7th rank. And so that's why the evaluation has shifted to be in favor of white. I mean, black is still a pawn up in this position. It's not like I've gained any material, but suddenly all my pieces have come to life, and this rook has easy access to the game, and these pieces are pretty well placed to jump into the attack. The knight going here will put some more pressure on the e-pawn. And yeah, it looks like a pretty dangerous setup for white at this point. Looks like white is winning. Instead of that, I went queen to f3, doubling, and there's a threat, a minor threat of checkmate on f7, so it has its own logic, but it's not as powerful as the other move. He can defend with queen e7, which he does, and then I played bishop to d4 here. Yeah, I decided, I guess, to defend the c-pawn. And apparently that's not too bad, but, well, the other line with queen g4 would have been better. I guess that's the main point. And then he went knight to d2, which is a very tempting move, but it's I have a way out of the fork. It doesn't actually win material. And after that, I am better once again. So with this queen f3 move, it's about even. Let's see, he should continue with the rook to f8, just chasing my queen, and you know, don't have any great. I have to get out of the line of the rook, and he can trade, and then bring his king up here, and bring the other rook over, and this is about even, or maybe even black is a little better because black is still a pawn up. So and that all goes back to my queen f3 move instead of playing queen g4. But instead he went for the very tempting move knight to d2. And this would be good, except that I have a way out of the fork, which is this check. And after this, I'm back in the driver's seat. And yeah, his game just falls apart in a hurry at this point. And it's surprising how quickly the fortune shifted in this game. It was, well, it's just a very sharp position, as so many French positions are, and little missteps can result in can cause great differences in the result. Anyway, he runs away from the check, and already I could win with rook to f7. I missed that idea at this point, but I played rook f2, hitting his rook, and as I was looking at the position while he was trying to figure out what to do, then I saw the rook f7 idea. But I should have really paused. I had time on the clock here. This was a game where I had more time than my opponent at the end. I got in trouble in the previous game by getting low on time and making some bad moves. Let's see. So he has no way out, even though I didn't find the best move there. There's still no way out because his knight is hanging, and there's this rook f7 threat. Let's see. He ran away with his king to c8. I grabbed the knight. He played a5. See, I brought my rook back, and he went king to b7, and just walked into the skewer. So yeah, like I said, he was low on time at this point and was just blitzing out the moves. But yeah, I was already better since knight d2 here. Anyway, he resigned at this point, and it was a pretty interesting game. Go and check out Tony's version on his channel if you haven't already, and I'll be back with a... oh, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.